Hey everyone, I'm Jay Smith and this is Bradley Kendall, and this is After Further Review, where today we'll be looking at some of the headlines dominating the college football landscape. So Bradley, after further review?
Unfortunately, UNC is officially now a top-tier ACC program. So we're going to take a look at the top 5 matchups from this past weekend, starting with the UNC game, of course. And really, Jay, coming into this game, I mean, Florida State, this was really their last chance to really keep themselves in the ACC conversation.
Yeah, I think it was. And also, if I remember correctly, our polling that we did last week had FSU by a landslide.
We had 2 people pick UNC.
So most people didn't really. And honestly, I was sold. I've been sold on UNC for a while, especially with how they performed last season, going 11-1. I know they lost South Carolina. But I think UNC is they're up and coming, and FSU right now is just they're searching for too many answers. I didn't see this game coming, ending the way it did. Obviously, FSU really had a chance to squeeze out there in the end, and UNC was able to pull off that last-second field goal. And we actually made a little bit of a bet where if UNC won, Bradley, you would say that UNC is a top-tier ACC school, and if FSU won,
there you go.
Yeah,
it's out there.
Honestly, again, I expected UNC to win the game. I didn't expect it to be this close, but I think now that if you're Florida State, obviously ACC champion. I mean that's
ACC playoff, all those contentions.
I
are
mean
all
right
out the
now,
door.
if you're Jimbo Fisher especially, they really have not had a season where they faced this much adversity this early on.
No, and you really don't, because looking at the power rankings, you really don't see them below 3 or 4 ever. I mean, they're usually up there even with a down season. 10-3 is even down for them, but now, going forward, they're just trying to get in the bowl scenario
Dalvin,
at this point.
do you know Dalvin Cook? What was his performance in that game? You have the box score pulled up?
I mean, he had a strong game. He had 3 touchdowns, 140 yards, but for especially like Heisman contention, you're losing all these games. It's not going to matter whether you put 300 yards.
I don't think. I think with Lamar and Deshaun and Christian McCaffrey's kind of taken a hit. His stock has taken a hit, especially with how they played against Washington. But I don't think Dalvin Cook is going to make. He's not going to make it to New York for the finalists. Now that game was at Florida State.
At Florida State, which hurts even more because it's on the home field.
So that's a tough loss.
Couldn't have felt good for Florida State fans seeing the UNC player do the tomahawk chop.
No, I did see a video of that where the kicker was running down the field at the end of the game doing the tomahawk chop. But that's a good win for UNC.
Oh, that's huge for them.
Honestly, again, I've been sold on for a while, but I think that finally starts making people turn heads, look at UNC legitimately as a threat in the Coastal. I know Miami's up and coming now.
And that's Fedora's big win he needed for UNC to take them to the next level. And that's huge for the Coastal Division because you get that win against Florida State, you're really in prime contention to push for the ACC championship.
For sure.
Is there a way to get into the playoff if they're going to do it?
Next game we're going to look at is from the SEC, and it was Tennessee and Georgia. Tennessee ended up pulling off 34-31.
Amazingly enough, they were able to win this one.
Crazy, almost as crazy as the game that we had here in Death Valley this past weekend.
It was about back-to-back. The UNC game and the Tennessee game was like in a matter of like 5
yes,
10
right
minutes.
Before the Clemson game was getting ready to kick off. Going into this game, I was expecting Tennessee to win, but the way that Georgia played really surprised me.
It did, yeah.
They came out, they matched Tennessee, pound for pound, and Tennessee had to earn this win. They really did have to earn it.
Oh, this was huge for them. Yeah, I mean, Georgia, after that blowout loss against Ole Miss, maybe you just thought they had a down week. I know both of us kind of counted them out.
Yeah.
But they really, they showed up. Let's see. Nick Chubb, he got hurt, so even without him, they were still able to even, contend for the win there. But Tennessee, I mean, my gosh, they're literally an exact replica of the Auburn team a couple of years ago with all these lucky wins.
Yeah, if you're Tennessee, Butch Jones has got to be happy. Honestly, because if you look at the games that they've played, I think it's similar to Clemson in some ways in that they haven't played their best football yet.
No, they haven't lived up to the expectations that were in the preseason.
Right. And that's kind of, what we've seen a little bit with Clemson. Obviously, they played very well against Louisville at home this past weekend. But, yeah, if you're Tennessee, again, we talked about it last week. They've done what they've needed to do. Hasn't looked pretty. Hasn't always been pretty. Sometimes you have, like a Miracle and Jordan Hare type play where it could, be the spark that really gets these guys in high gear.
Oh, for sure.
Because now you've got, Tennessee, Bama, and A&M.
You've got the gauntlet coming
Exactly, in the SEC. So one of those 3 teams is going to emerge victorious. And honestly, if I had to pick right now, I would just pick Tennessee because there's just, like you said, with Auburn a couple of years back, there's just something about this team.
There's something riding with them. Yeah,
and I know a lot of people hate the Vols. They love to hate the Vols, but
especially when they get 4 game days potentially this year on ESPN.
Yes, for sure. But honestly, though, again, I think Tennessee Again, they've done what they need to do, and they continue to win.
And I think this goes to show that they can win in any kind of environment, any kind of situation. They can come back. They can win on a Hail Mary, for God's sake.
I mean, some of those teams are like, again, that's out of your control.
Yeah.
But you're still able to get out of there with the W.
And it was Georgia and Florida though. Now you got Texas A&M and then Bama afterwards.
Yeah.
So you really got to hunker down and get ready for the
if Tennessee makes it through that stretch, then that pretty much completely. There should not be any doubts.
This is pretty much their invitation to the playoff or the
Yes.
SEC championship if they get past all this.
Absolutely.
Yep. So looking at the next game we had the one of the bigger games, the top 10 matchups. We had Wisconsin and Michigan. And really coming to this game, after Wisconsin had really riding high on that big win against Michigan State, I thought they were going to win. I was pretty confident Wisconsin.
I've been a fan of Michigan all season. I know that you're not necessarily as sold on Michigan.
Even after this win, I'm still a little bit questionable on them.
Well, again, we talked about this. I think it was back in the first show that we did a couple weeks ago, where Wisconsin had beaten up on Michigan State, and the week before that they had played Georgia State and barely won on a touchdown.
Yeah.
And we were like, which Wisconsin team is going to show up to play? So I honestly expected Michigan to win this game just because I knew that Michigan throughout the season had played more consistently. Yeah. Wisconsin only scored 7 points.
And Michigan only scored 14 points.
I know Michigan only scored 14, so it was definitely a low-scoring affair. But again, I've had more faith in Michigan all season. Yeah. And I think Harbaugh, again, end of the year, I really think Michigan is going to beat Ohio State. But that all remains to be seen. I know that you're more of a Buckeye fan than a Wolverine fan right now. But honestly, this one just wasn't too surprising. Maybe because it was low scoring. And
this is the kind of the game that people thought Wisconsin was going to have to play because they're always a kind of a defensive slugfest kind of game. Yep. And really, it was who was going to score in the final minutes was going to win the game.
Well, I mean, if you're Michigan, you're impressed with the defensive performance.
Oh yeah.
I mean, giving up 7 points is
despite your offense's slack.
Well, there's still some things they'll need to fix on offense, but overall, this wasn't. I mean, I expected Michigan to win. Yes, it was a low-scoring game, but not too terribly surprising. Now, the next game that we have on our list definitely was not a low-scoring game, at least
by any means.
For one team, Washington whooping up on Stanford on Friday night, 44-6.
And this was really country's introduction to Washington. I mean, because we knew Stanford was good, we knew they had McCaffrey, but no one had seen Washington yet.
No, and I hadn't really had a whole lot of time to watch them play. I knew that they were good, and I knew that they, I mean, obviously they have athletes, but I just did, the question when you play Stanford, because this was Oregon's Achilles heel for so many years, was could they physically match Stanford? Yeah. Could they, actually go in there? I know it was at Washington, but could they go up against Stanford and physically match up with them? And Stanford's been known to punch teams in the mouth.
That's their mentality.
That's exactly what the Huskies did to Stanford, and going into the halftime, down 23-0. Stanford looked like they've been hit by a bus.
Got a taste of their own medicine there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what they try and do to other teams.
Yeah.
And, I mean, for Washington, their offensive numbers. I mean, Jake Browning, not a lot of people probably know about him, but after this, I mean, heck, the guy put up 44 on Stanford's defense, which goes to say that they might be able to compete with any other team in the country.
Yeah, really. I mean, really an impressive win.
Oh, definitely.
For Washington.
Yeah.
And now with Utah and Arizona State, which we talked about last week, we're like, maybe the South. It's funny because we said, is the South not getting as much love as they should? And there they go, and both those teams lose.
They didn't prove themselves worthy at all.
No, and I believe it was Arizona State lost to USC.
By a lot.
A bad loss.
Which is a terrible loss.
And Utah, they played.
But California,
that's
which
right.
is a tough game, obviously.
Tricky.
But you thought if they could get over the hump, they'd be able to, continue their way up in the rankings. But gosh, you get the ball down to the 10-yard line, and you have 7 plays to score.
Yeah, the end of that game.
Winning teams will score there.
The end of that game was not good for Utah. So yeah, I mean, right now it's Washington, Pac-12.
That's
really their only hope for playoff.
Now Utah and Washington play later in the year, so if Washington's able to pull that one out, or if Utah's able to pull that one out, that'd be their big win.
That opens up an interesting conversation for sure.
My gosh, yeah.
Especially depending on how Stanford does the rest of the year, at least in conference play. But I mean, this could be the largest margin of victory we see all year in the Pac-12.
Oh, you would think so.
I mean,
with the deep conference.
Yeah.
44-6. I mean, that's just.
It was a. Yeah, I mean, they just whooped them.
We went to bed about halftime because the game was over.
All over. Yeah, I was going to stay up and watch the game, and By halftime, I was like, well, this is over 23-0. Stanford hadn't done anything with the ball.
And I didn't really Stanford. I knew they were good. I didn't really have too much faith in them. So Washington, they handled them very, very, seriously. But they're up at number 5 now, and I don't know if Washington is. If you look at how they match up against all the other teams, I don't know if they're exactly still at that level yet, but they definitely deserve to be number 5 at this point.
So you're saying that they're still overrated?
I think they're still good. I wouldn't completely slide them all the way up into the Clemson and Alabama rankings yet. I wouldn't go that far yet. I still think they're good.
Let's be honest now. Alabama's only up there because they're Alabama. They're the defending national champions, but they've only beaten Ole Miss.
That's true.
They haven't played anybody yet.
I'm talking about like the big boys, the top 5.
Okay, so you're
I don't
saying
know if they're quite as high there yet.
Possibly, but I think. Well, just go ahead. I was going to say after the Stanford, I mean, what else do you need? What do you want to see from them?
The problem for Washington is their schedule. Although they have a deep conference, the only big game they really had a chance to make a statement was the Stanford game, and they made a statement. But other than that, they're not really going to have any big time wins.
That's a fair point. That kind of reminds me of Louisville a little bit. And I know Louisville made a statement against Florida State, and then they've also played us, and they will play Houston later in the year. So they do have a better strength of schedule than, I guess, Washington. But the Pac-12 is deeper than the ACC. So all those games that Louisville's going to play between now and Houston are not as strong as who Washington's going to go up against. But again, that's a fair argument. I guess I can see both sides of that.
It's for the committee to decide.
Yep.
We'll see how they handle that.
Last game, obviously, that we're going to touch on was the game right here Saturday night. And my voice, I'm still recovering from the game. Clemson, Louisville, number 5, number 3, arguably the biggest matchup in the history of Death Valley.
Absolutely, and maybe the season.
Lived up to the hype, exceeded every expectation that I had going into that game.
The noise level, the hype up for game day. I mean, we were booing Corso because he picked Clemson. So we finally was able to break that curse, but. I mean, you had the announcers midway through the game saying they couldn't even hear each other. It was that loud.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a lot of Clemson games, with Notre Dame last year and Florida State and other games growing up, and that's as loud as I've ever heard it.
Easily. I mean, I couldn't hear anything.
No, I mean, there were points of that game where it was almost so loud that it was almost, you just couldn't. It was almost quiet, if that makes sense.
The best comparison I can make is that it felt like I was on like an airplane runway. It was just so loud, and you were so close to it that.
And what really fed the crowd earlier in that game, because in the third quarter it kind of died down. Let's be honest. In the third quarter, when Lamar Jackson started running around us in circles, it quieted down. But the beginning of that game, with the 2 consecutive false start penalties,
that was huge.
The student section was going berserk.
I mean, that just fed the noise.
Going berserk. Yeah. So again, you look at the performance of Lamar Jackson. He didn't have a bad game.
Oh, I give them credit. They were able to handle that in that environment and still almost win. They came in within a yard of almost pulling the upset.
Oh, easily. So, I mean, I think that's the best matchup we've seen this season.
Yeah.
Remains to be seen if that holds true down to the rest of the season. I guess maybe Tennessee and Alabama.
But Louisville definitely is not out of the picture yet. I mean, that's exact. Dabo said that to Bobby Petrino after the game. He said, "Hey, keep winning. You're not out of this thing yet.
No.
You still have plenty of chances."
If they beat Houston, and Houston right now is above them at 6.
Louisville
dropped to 7, and the Houston's at 6. So if Louisville runs the table, I know they won't get the ACC championship, barring a huge Clemson slip up. I think that they're in as good a position as any other team in the country with one loss. With one loss.
And even with one loss, I still would slot them even more than some of the other teams that don't have a loss yet. I mean, it's arguable.
Yeah. No,
they proved more in that one loss than other teams might have been a win.
I still think Louisville. I know you got to drop them because they lost, but I think they're one of the best teams in the country.
People works, you got to drop them. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they're better than Houston.
So I definitely think it proved more for Louisville than Clemson because we knew Clemson was gonna. They were supposed to do this. They were supposed to win at home.
Well, now they weren't favored, but we really hadn't seen the Clemson that we had seen last year. We hadn't seen that breakout performance by Wayne Gallman. We hadn't seen the breakout performance by Deshaun Watson. Yes, Deshaun had 3 interceptions in this game. I know one of them was tipped. But there was I just felt like the team, I know we didn't play our best, but they gelled better than we have at any point this season.
This was our game to come together.
Yeah, even better than Georgia Tech.
This felt like Notre Dame. It really did. Because last year, our first 4 games, we did okay. We kind of crept our way up from 12. But we really hadn't proved much yet.
As far as Notre Dame goes, though, because you got to remember, with Notre Dame, we were up in that game. I think it was 22 or 24 to 6.
Yeah, I think it was like 21-6.
We were leading the majority of the game, and Notre Dame came back into it and almost pulled the upset. This game was back and forth. Clemson was in the lead. Nobody scored first quarter. Clemson came out, had a 28-point second quarter. Louisville came out and dominated the third quarter. Took the lead.
Yeah.
I think they scored 26 unanswered points on us or something.
And it got to a point where every possession you thought Louisville.
Yeah, as soon as Lamar Jackson got the ball, you're like, well, there's another first down for Louisville. But as far as facing adversity, I felt like there was more that we had to deal with in this game than the Notre Dame game.
I think so.
I know it was pouring down rain,
Yep.
and I know it was just horrible conditions for Notre Dame. But as far as like being able to come together as a team, rally around, that's the first game-winning drive Deshaun Watson has ever put together.
Wow.
The first. Never had to do it before.
He was clutch. He was.
At home. Because we were I was at his presser yesterday, and they were talking about it, and he basically just said I wasn't worried about. I just knew I had to go out and do what I needed to do.
Yep.
And lead my team down the field. There wasn't any extra pressure and anything like that. So as far as overcoming adversity goes, I don't think you can really get much better than that.
You really can't. There were way more chances for us to give the game away here than there was Notre Dame last year.
Yes. Even if the other two top 10 matchups this weekend did not live up to the hype.
No.
This one exceeded. This made up for all three.
This was huge.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Next segment that we're going to do, what we did last week with the ref segment. So I'm going to ask Bradley 4 different questions, and he's going to give his opinions. And if I disagree at any point, I'm going to throw the yellow flag, and then we'll go back and forth.
Fully anticipate you throwing that flag a few times.
There you go.
Here. Yep.
All right, so first question. Who has the best chance to beat Bama, Texas A&M or Tennessee?
I think Tennessee. I think Tennessee's proven themselves so far. Texas A&M, I don't think they've had any really big wins yet. They struggled against South Carolina last week.
Yep.
Tennessee with the better quarterback in my eyes, Joshua Dobbs. And just the way they've been winning games, they find a way to eke it out. And I think the fact that the game is at Tennessee against Bama, and they're looking for revenge from last year, I'd give the nod to Tennessee.
Yeah, it's at Tennessee, and Bama host A&M.
Yep.
Again, when you talked about, I don't know if Josh Dobbs is necessarily that good of a quarterback, but
I would take him over Trevor Knight.
Fair enough, but they find a way to win.
They
Somehow, some way, they're able to find a way to win. Week in, week out. Now maybe that'll change, but for right now, I would agree with you. I would give Tennessee the nod there. Next question, and I know we'll probably disagree on this.
We've been arguing this since the beginning of the year.
Who is the better team, Ohio State or Michigan?
It's Ohio State. It's got to be. Throw the flag.
Yeah.
I want to hear this.
Yeah. No. You go ahead and say your piece, and then I'm gonna.
Michigan, coming into the year, they had a younger team, or no, I shouldn't say younger team. They had a younger quarterback. JT Barrett is the better quarterback compared to Spate from Michigan. That says a lot. Ohio State, I think the way that they played against Oklahoma now, I know Oklahoma has 2 losses, they looked impressive. And Michigan, to me, when you line them up against other teams, I don't know how they're going to keep up scoring with other teams. They have a good defense, but like Wisconsin, they just can't score consistently. And I think Ohio State can.
Ohio State is the youngest team FBS.
And age is just a number sometimes.
It is just a number, especially when you're young. But experience, they don't have the experience.
But their quarterback, though, JT Barrett has experience.
I understand that, but JT Barrett is not as dynamic as a Lamar Jackson.
Well, no, but he's more dynamic than Wilson Spate, who's the quarterback of Michigan.
Possibly. As far as the coaching dynamic, because Harbaugh and Urban Meyer figures to be.
That's a big time.
I honestly think
showdown.
Harbaugh is ready this year. I know there's always the chatter that goes on in the offseason about antics that he does on social media and stuff, but I really think this is the year that Michigan it gets over that hump and beats Ohio State. I'm not denying that Urban's a great coach. I'm not denying JT Barrett's a good quarterback. They're the youngest team in the country. They just don't have, in a big-time game like that, they're going to be fired up.
Sometimes it's good to go into that not really knowing, not really having experience with that.
It is, but not when you're going up against Harbaugh.
But you have Urban Meyer as your coach. That's enough.
Yes. I'm not discounting Urban Meyer, but I just don't.
Think about this. Okay, Ohio State last year against Michigan.
Yeah.
Beat them 42-13. It was a blowout.
Right, but there was
Has Michigan gained enough to overcome that? Because they still have Barrett.
Well, there was a couple of years ago when I'm pretty sure Michigan wasn't even ranked. I don't know exactly when this was, but they played each other, obviously, and it came down to like a 2-point conversion, and Michigan could either kick the field goal to basically force overtime or go for 2 to win the game. They went for 2, they lost the game. It was like 43-42 or something. And at the time, Ohio State was ranked, so it would have been a huge upset. Point is, though, this is arguably one of the biggest rivalry games of the year.
It's up there.
It's Iron Bowl. I think this one's called The Game. You've got, I think, Civil War with Oregon. Oregon State's also one of the best. I know that doesn't get a lot of attention. And then Georgia and Georgia Tech with clean old-fashioned. But anyway, this game you have to throw everything out the window.
Okay.
Stats, just throw it out the window. Because basically, at the end of the day, the way I see it is Ohio State is the youngest team in the country. And Michigan, even though they may not have a lot more experience, they're gonna be able to come in with some. And I think this is the year that Harbaugh is able to finally take down the Buckeyes.
I maybe would wait 1 or 2 more years because to me, Michigan last year they started to get some hype. They were 10-3. They finally got close enough to where they were close to where they used to be.
Yep.
Now people are like, okay, Harbaugh's had a couple years. They're obviously going to be top 5, so they're sliding them in number 4 in the country.
Yeah.
I just think in a big time game, experience can only get you so far when talent really is going to win you the game. I would take Barrett. I would be more comfortable taking JT Barrett over Michigan's quarterback in a big-time game like that.
I guess I could take JT. I mean, I could see why you would take JT Barrett. I just, again, I think at the end of the day, I just think that Harbaugh's just going to he can show up and he's going to be hell-bent on beating Urban Meyer.
Well, to me, I don't see any way that Ohio State's going to lose up into that game. I haven't seen any reason to doubt them.
They have looked good.
They've looked intent. Michigan almost lost to Wisconsin at home. So, to me, I don't think that.
Well, it was a lower scoring game.
It was a lower scoring game.
I'm just telling you, this game, it's any rivalry game. You just throw all that crap out the window. I don't care.
If Michigan wins, yes, I think.
Because think about last year when Clemson played South Carolina. We were 11-0 going into that game. Number 1 team in the country. They were 3-8.
They were 3-8.
They were 3-8.
Yeah.
And they competed with us. I mean, you can't win. I mean, I know that game was at Carolina, and obviously they showed up ready to play because they wanted to take down Clemson. Are you kidding? They wanted to ruin our season.
So much going for them there.
But I'm telling you, these types of games, you can't look at who they've played, common opponents. I just think that Michigan's going to come in and they're going to be ready to roll. So
I just think Ohio State's the better team, so you got to go with the better team.
Yeah, I don't know. Next question. What's the more likely upset? Number 16 Arkansas over number 1 Alabama, or Oregon over number 5 Washington?
I was initially going to go with Arkansas. I really was going to, but I know Oregon got blown out, but it's on the road for Washington.
So just to be clear, you're picking Oregon.
I'm going to go with Oregon.
Okay.
Because I don't think Arkansas matches up well against Alabama at all. When they face a dual threat quarterback, they've really struggled. They faced Kenny Hill earlier this year and gave up, I think it was like 41 points.
They have, yep.
And Bama, to me, is better than – I would take them over Washington, even though I know we talked about the top 4 and that Washington's more deserving of it. But I would feel more comfortable picking Bama than I would picking Washington. I just think the fact that it's at Oregon and that – I don't think
Well, first off, Alabama and Washington are not going to lose. The Oregon's not going to beat Washington. Arkansas's not going to beat Alabama. There's no way.
No way.
No way. I mean, Alabama hasn't. Yes, they haven't really done anything
You're
yet this
penciling
year.
it in for the W.
Washington, yes. Did you watch that Stanford game?
But did you watch their Arizona game?
Oh, I did, and I totally understand that it's a week-to-week thing. Oregon has not looked good.
They haven't looked good. They got a new quarterback though. They're starting a different quarterback, so that could change things. It's at home.
I give Arkansas a little. I mean, yes, Alabama hasn't played anybody except for Ole Miss. I don't think Arkansas can beat Bama, but I think they can contend with them at least until halftime. I do not see Oregon. No.
Yeah,
Washington will win by double digits.
Stanford's a slower team, and that helped Washington because Washington liked to slow it down, and then they just took it over. Oregon's a more faster team, so I think they may be able to score a little bit easier with Washington.
Either that or they just go 3 and out easier. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
They're either going to score or they're just going to go 3 and out every time.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
I just don't see Arkansas matching up well with Alabama at all.
Not necessarily me either, but I don't think Oregon's gonna.
I would pick both Washington and Alabama to win. I would be shocked either way.
Yeah.
But I think I would be less shocked to see an Oregon team that's been, Oregon's a national team.
Yeah.
We would say.
All right. Well, last question: which ACC Coastal team has the best chance to win this weekend? Number 17 UNC versus number 25 Virginia Tech. Or number 10 Miami versus number 23 FSU?
I think it's UNC.
Really?
I pick UNC.
Really?
Yep.
All right, I got to throw the flag again.
Throw the flag again? Well, third time.
Third time. I know last time I only got once. All right, go ahead.
Open the door for you.
Yeah, give you a piece.
Virginia Tech, I hate to say it, but I don't think they've really proven anything yet. They did destroy Boston College, but they did lose to Tennessee.
Yeah.
They don't have any big wins yet, and UNC's coming off a big win against Florida State. I think UNC is going to be too motivated. I don't see Virginia Tech cracking this one out.
Oh, I mean, I agree with you there. I think UNC will win, but Florida State's in free fall. I mean, they're not even.
But this is, like you said, it's a big rivalry game. You talked about that
It
whole
is, but
Miami,
Mark
Florida
Richt
State.
has got. I mean, look at Miami.
But
top
what has
10.
Miami proven this year? Have they had any big wins yet? They're kind of even with Virginia Tech.
No, but they also have Mark Richt as their coach.
They do have Mark Richt as their
and
coach.
I
Yep.
think that Miami, I mean, with the talent pool that Miami gets every year, it's like USC. They reload, they reload, they reload. They're finally doing something with it now, though, with winning those games.
They're getting ranked high.
They
They're
are.
getting ranked
I don't
high.
disagree
Yes.
that they're they're being overhyped a little bit. I don't think they're top 10, maybe top
top
15.
20.
Top 16, 17
Yeah.
somewhere I'd put them. But as far as who has the best chance to win, I think Florida State, no, they're not. No, they're Miami. I think will just.
You don't think they
come
have a chance?
Not much of a chance.
It's Florida.
at all.
I mean, I know you don't want to say it's Florida State like that, but they have Dalvin Cook. Miami hasn't seen a running back like Dalvin Cook yet.
Yes, but I just have more faith in Brad Kaya. He's back now.
Okay.
He's healthy. Mark Richt's got him in his system. It's almost been half a season.
Trubinsky's a good quarterback, though, for UNC. He's pretty good. He's pretty darn good.
I give both of these teams a nod to win the games this weekend. I just think Miami has a better
So you think
chance.
Virginia Tech theoretically is better than Florida State? Is that what you're trying to say? They're a tougher team to beat?
Yes, right now.
You think so?
Right now. FSU is, I mean, I know that they.
I think FSU is more talented than Virginia Tech. I don't think Virginia Tech's proven it
Talent
yet.
is that. I mean,
Talent is.
if you don't show up to play, you're not going to win. That's
They
as
have
simple
Dalvin
as
Cook,
that.
who's one of the top 5 running backs in the country. Virginia Tech,
I understand, but that doesn't mean that. I mean, I just think that Virginia Tech. I mean, for going back to FSU for a second, I know they lost to UNC on a last-second field goal, but I just don't get a vibe that they're really.
I think Fisher's going to get them ready to play. I mean, they can't lose another game. If they lose another game, then they're going to be out of the top 25.
I think they are, bro. I don't think they're beating Miami. I think Miami is too talented, and FSU is running in quicksand.
I think Miami.
Ship.
I think Florida State matches up well with Miami because I don't think outside of Brad Kaya, I don't see Miami really having a lot of talent to match up at Florida State. And I think Derwin James is coming back, if I'm not mistaken.
He might be.
Even if he's not, though, I mean, I don't know.
Again, though, I just think that.
I think Miami will win.
Yes.
Going back to this, it's a matter of who do you think has the best chance to win.
Yes.
Miami will win, but
I just think FSU is in free fall right now. They're not even. Maybe they'll show up to play against Miami.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but from what I have seen,
the fact that it's Florida State, though, I don't care what the team is. It's Florida State versus Virginia Tech. Do you really feel like a team has better chance to beat Florida State than they do Virginia Tech? I just don't see it.
I just know college football is a week-to-week thing because
You never know.
I mean, would you have guessed that Stanford was going to get destroyed by Washington like that?
think
I don't
anybody
think.
would've guessed
No,
that.
I don't think
Nope.
we picked that last week. So that's the conclusion of that segment, and now we're going to move on and look at one thing in the Power 5 conference, all the Power 5 conferences, starting with the ACC, and now. With the new rankings that came out, ACC is now tied for first with the SEC. They have 6 teams in the current AP poll. I know we've talked about, obviously we've got Clemson, Louisville, Miami. I think that's 3 in the top 10 alone. You've got UNC, Virginia Tech, and Florida State.
To me, there's a big separation between the top 6 and the bottom 6.
Yeah,
of the SEC.
I don't see Miami. Again, we already talked about this a little bit a second ago where they're not really a top 10 team.
Yeah, I think only one team in a couple weeks from the Coastal will be ranked.
I don't even feel like Florida State and Virginia Tech are top 25 teams right now.
I think they're just there just because they were
Yeah.
higher.
Well,
Florida State was higher
Florida
than
State
before.
was, exactly.
Yeah.
But and UNC's up there because they beat Florida State.
To me, I don't see why Virginia Tech's even ranked 25. I mean,
No,
great for them.
No,
Shout out to the Hokies.
it's great that we have 6 teams,
Yeah.
but when I look at the 6 teams, I'm like, okay, it's Clemson and Louisville. And I've been sold on UNC, so I feel like UNC's a top 20 team. I feel like that's an appropriate
at that
ranking.
level yet, though.
Oh, you don't think they're top 20?
Well, they're not at the level of Clemson and Louisville yet.
No. But I think they'll represent the coast. Either them or Miami this year is going to represent the Coastal.
And it's good because last year it was really just Carolina. There was no other team that could
They went 11-1.
Well, there was no other team that really could contend with
No.
them for the Coastal.
No.
Now that you have a few teams, it's almost better competition.
Right.
But yeah, there's a strict drop-off.
So not a lot of depth to the
Yeah.
fact that there's 6
You can look at that and people are going to say, oh, and the ACC should be the same level as the SEC. It's still not that way.
At the bottom tier.
Yeah, the
You
bottom
got
just
like
really destroys
Boston
it.
College and Virginia. Okay, moving on to the Big Ten though. Ohio State, Michigan. They're still at the top. We're talking about this
Wisconsin's
matchup.
hanging around.
Yeah, well, a little bit. They fall a little bit after the Michigan loss, but
It was close.
it was.
Yep.
But I mean, just imagine the matchup that this could be at the end of the season.
This is like the Stanford-Washington game in the Pac-12. This is going to determine the Big Ten.
Yeah.
That's how it's
And
going
it
to be.
probably will determine which of these teams goes to the playoff if they're undefeated
If
at
they
the
both
time.
keep winning. And at this point, I don't see any other teams really competing with them because Michigan already took
Well,
care of
you
Wisconsin.
don't seem to have much faith in Michigan's offense.
Well, I'm just saying compared to the rest of the Big Ten, I don't think there's any other teams because Michigan State maybe.
Yeah.
I don't see any other teams
That's-
really giving them any trouble.
That's fair. That's fair.
They might trip up because Michigan State just lost to Indiana.
Well, yeah, and
So-
you just never know.
Yeah.
Big 12, obviously TCU is out of playoff contention after their loss to Oklahoma. That puts them at 2 losses
You can't
now.
lose 2 games.
Yeah,
it's
they're
just not going to
They're
happen.
done. And really something that I saw, we saw probably about 30 minutes before we went on air, was an update on the Baylor sexual assault, issue. And I think it was the director of the Title IX for Baylor was paid $1.5 million to keep quiet after he resigned about the whole issue that went down. I think he asked for $2 million is what it said.
Doesn't matter. You paid him. That's
that
bad.
just continues to look really bad.
And for Baylor, they got a new coach. They got past Art Briles. You'd think they were kind of moving past that.
And they
recovering a
weren't
little
they
bit,
undefeated
and they're playing well.
not too long ago?
And you get this. And
Yeah.
it's just like, let's just bring it back.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how UNC with the academic scandal. They thought they got rid of it, and then there was more stuff about it that kept coming out.
Yeah, I'm looking now, and Baylor is still they're still undefeated.
They almost tripped up against Iowa State.
They did.
Yep.
They only won by 3, but they're 5-0. They play Kansas. They're gonna win that game.
Mm-hmm.
Then at Texas. They have at Texas,
Potential loss.
TCU, and then at Oklahoma.
they
That's
would
their
lose.
toughest stretch of the year.
You think they would lose probably one game in there?
Really?
With at Oklahoma, you saw the way they rebounded against TCU.
Maybe at Oklahoma, but I think they should handle Texas and TCU.
And to me,
easily.
Baylor was just kind of messing with the polls. They're not really as strong as their record says they are.
They're not number 11, or where I think number
13.
13 in the AP, number 11 in the coaches.
I don't think they're quite there.
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah, they're.
To me, they're like UNC. I think they're like UNC.
Well, I think UNC's better than that, and they are.
I think that compared to the rest of the conference, I don't think Baylor's really as strong as everyone else.
Right, but with Baylor,
they're
they're
still
almost like
good.
in a rebuilding year because
Yeah.
Art Briles is gone. They've had all these issues. For example, look at how far Missouri fell.
How far Penn State fell.
Well, we know Penn State's fallen,
Yeah.
but recently, Missouri was good for a
They
while.
won the SEC
A
championship.
few years back,
Yeah.
right? And then all of that happened, and they're
Since
terrible.
then,
they're terrible.
They've just been begging for wins.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Really bottom feeder ACC school, right? Or SEC,
SEC,
school.
yeah.
Yeah, excuse me, right now. But moving on.
It's too
though.
bad for Baylor.
Yeah,
Yep.
this just stuff that keeps coming out, and you're just shaking your head. That sort of
Yep.
stuff. $1.5 million.
It makes you embarrassed to wear a Bears shirt.
Yeah, for
Yep.
sure. Pac-12. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Utah and Arizona State both lose. Washington, they now control their own destiny.
Yep.
That's
Really-
pretty much all there is to say about that.
It just reiterates that Washington is the Pac-12.
Right now, unless they lose, that's it.
Yep. Utah should have won their game against Cal, but you
Yep.
take a loss.
Yep.
And you got Washington coming up, so you may lose another game.
And then with the SEC, we'll go and wrap it up. Ed Ogeron, he wins his first game at LSU over Missouri. We just talked about how terrible they are.
We just hated on. Yep.
And then the round robin begins for Bama, A&M, and Tennessee. But going back to Ed Ogeron for a second, because I know he's at LSU, and he went 6-2 when he was at USC as the interim head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see LSU hiring Ed Ogeron, or do you just see him as a filler?
So far, it's a fill-in. Now, I think if he continues to win and he beats Bama, per se, I think, I'm not saying it's going to happen. But
Okay.
if it does,
Okay.
and he really impresses, if you're LSU, you'd be stupid not to hire him if he succeeds. Now, they want to go after the big-time coach because, they're going to be attracted to the talent pool there and all that.
Yeah, because you could stay in South Louisiana
Yeah.
and recruit your entire roster.
This may be Orgeron's tryout, his second cut
I think
for another head
USC
coach.
was stupid not to keep him,
Oh, they
honestly,
were.
because the players loved him.
Exactly. They loved
went
him, and he
6-2.
succeeded.
He played well. Coached well. And I think I remember him saying that how much he loved USC. So I don't know why USC didn't hire him.
For some reason, those big schools, if they don't get a big-name coach, they're not satisfied.
Yeah.
They just don't think that it represents.
Well, now wasn't Ogeron part of the Pete Carroll staff?
He was there, but it's not.
I think they wanted to just clean slate.
Yeah.
That hasn't worked.
No, it hasn't at all.
But
They're
and
still
you know,
right at the bottom,
as far as USC, I mean, talk about talent pool, and they never do anything with it.
Yeah. So I think LSU will go hunting for a bigger coach. If they don't get like Jimbo Fisher or Tom Herman, they might keep him.
Yeah. And again, we talked about Bama, A&M, Tennessee, and all that stuff. So we pretty much wrapped up the one big thing in each Power Five. So now we're going to share who we have as our playoff teams right now.
I'll let you start.
And I get to go first. So right now, I know a lot of people are going to be
a lot of backlash on Twitter.
Upset about this. I have Louisville at number 1. And the reason I have Louisville at number 1 is because you put them at a neutral location with any team in the country right now, they're going to beat them. That game
debatable.
On Saturday night was at Death Valley. It was unspeakably loud. I mean, there was 80,000 people plus screaming their hearts out, trying to distract them. It was a hostile environment. And for that third quarter, he made the entire Clemson defense look silly. Like we said earlier, as soon as he got the ball, you knew, well, there's another first down for Louisville.
When they were clicking, they were scary.
And that was at Death Valley.
I don't think I've been able to say for any team in a long time that you know for sure they're going to score if they get the ball.
Well, maybe going back to Oregon, Mariota.
But
point taken. And I know Clemson beat Louisville, and I know everybody's going to say, oh, but they're the best team.
That's what I was about to say.
You play that game at a neutral location or at Louisville, and Clemson does not win that game.
Yep.
There's no way. No way.
Well, I'd say Clemson still has a chance. They'd still probably beat them.
No, they still have a chance.
4 out of 10
but,
times.
But if you play that game 10 times, Louisville's going to win more often than not.
I think Louisville has the more talented quarterback. I think Clemson, outside of that, has the more talented receiving core.
Overall, yes. I'm not saying that Clemson is not talented. They're definitely one of the best teams in the country. However, Lamar is what Deshaun was last year.
Mm-hmm. He's putting the numbers for sure.
Yeah. Deshaun could have a career night for the rest of the season and not even catch Lamar for Heisman and stuff. I mean, right now, it's, even though they've lost a game, if Louisville goes 11-1, I think Lamar should win the Heisman, honestly.
Oh, he's got the Heisman locked up at this point. Unless he gets injured or something, there's no way he's giving that up.
But anyway, going back to the top 4. So Louisville, I have at 1. And then I had Washington at 2. And the reason I have Washington at 2 is because of their performance against Stanford. I know it was at Washington, but they were more physical than Stanford. They beat them in every facet of that game.
They tore apart.
It was a complete obliteration, almost like what Louisville did to Florida State. So the reason I have those 2 teams 1 and 2 is because, and I know we've talked about like Florida State, they're kind of in free fall, but at the time, they were number 2, and people were giving them credit. Okay, Florida State's real good. Louisville has the most impressive win in the country right now. I know Clemson beat Louisville, but just hear me out.
Wait a minute.
Well, no.
Hold on a second.
Hear me out. Louisville whipped up on Florida State. Washington whipped up on Stanford. I know Clemson squeaked by
look
at
what
home.
Florida State has become.
But they weren't that 3 or 4 weeks ago. They lost on a last-second field goal.
Team.
I understand, but there's a different mentality now than there was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Mentality is
I don't think.
not
Look
everything.
now, no. You cannot tell me that Florida State went into that game at Louisville and was like, we're going to get beat 63-10 today.
I still think the fact that Clemson beat the team that beat them like that's the more deserving win.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that game, the Clemson-Louisville game, I know we played great in the second quarter. I know they played great in the third quarter. But if you put that game at a neutral location, Louisville's going to, I mean, you saw what they were doing to us that third quarter.
Yeah.
Deshaun's a great quarterback, arguably one of the best in the country, maybe the best that Clemson's ever had. But Lamar Jackson is what Deshaun Watson was last year. So based off of Washington's performance against Stanford, I give them the nod to 2. I put Clemson at 3. I know people are going to, tear me apart, but
you really think Washington's better than Clemson? Who would you take if they played each other right now? Would you really pick Washington over Clemson?
Neutral location?
Neutral location.
Yeah.
Would you really?
I think Clemson is the number 3 team in the country right now. I think they're the third best team.
We have the better quarterback, the better win.
We do, but we haven't played our best football. What we saw from Washington.
What
we saw from Washington Friday night was their best football.
It was.
And if they play that against us, like how we played in that third quarter against Louisville, it only takes 1 quarter. You saw what they did to us in that third quarter. All of a sudden, we went into the half with an 18-point lead, and all of a sudden, we were down by 8.
Yeah.
And everybody was going, what happened? So if Washington plays like they did against Stanford and we play like we did that third quarter against Louisville, Washington's going to beat us. That is my until Clemson plays their best game of football. And they just
We didn't even play our best, and we still beat Louisville. I know it was at home, and I know that Louisville had a rough start, and we turned the ball over.
Now, with 8.5 minutes left in that fourth quarter, after we'd almost scored,
we found a way to win.
We found a way to win,
Just
and
like
I don't
Tennessee.
discredit anything that Clemson's done this season. I'm just saying, based off right now, Washington, I have seen what they can do.
Okay.
I've seen I know what Clemson can do. I know what they're capable of. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen what I saw last year. When they do what, like, you know, they have a game.
You got to look at who they played though. They played Stanford. I know Stanford was perennial powerhouse. Their name alone.
You see, I mean, they
haven't
smacked
impressed
Stanford around.
They haven't impressed anybody this year. McCaffrey's good, but the rest of their team really is not that strong, man.
I understand.
And I know they beat them badly.
Again, I think Clemson at 3 right now, and if they continue to improve, and Washington kind of plateaus, then you move them up.
I think Washington and Tennessee right now are kind of close.
I don't want to say that.
I don't know if I'd put Washington all the way up there
Okay,
yet.
well, let me finish now.
Okay.
This is my turn. It's my turn. Number 4.
You're begging for me to argue.
Yeah,
with
number 4, I have Michigan. And everybody's probably freaking out because there's no SEC team in here. They're like, where's Alabama? Where's Ohio
That was the first comment we
State?
got on Twitter.
Yeah. Alabama, as of right now, has not played anybody except for Ole Miss. Yeah, they've killed the rest of the competition. So what? And I know Michigan. I mean, they're both 5-0, and they really haven't played anybody besides, I guess you could say, Penn State and Wisconsin. I just have a good feeling. That's all I really can say. I just have a good feeling about this Michigan team. They have at Rutgers next week. They're going to win that game. They have Illinois. Then they have at Michigan State. I feel like they can win that game.
Now we're looking at teams here. We're not looking at who's a better team. Who's not.
Better team right now, I feel like is Michigan because again.
Why?
I think Harbaugh. I think this is his.
But it's Saban, dude.
But Harbaugh.
It's Saban.
I understand. This is where it's kind of fuzzy for me because you could easily say Bama's 4 or Michigan 4 or Ohio State's 4. I don't put Ohio State 4 because they're young.
This is why the playoff is not this week.
Right. This is why the playoff needs to be 8 teams.
Oh, please.
This 4-team stuff is ridiculous.
Please, can we get that?
But regardless, again, I don't put Ohio State at 4 because they're too young, and I just have a feeling that Michigan is going to, because you don't often see repeat national champions. So that's why I'm hesitant on Alabama right now. They're at 5 though.
That's fine. No, that's fine.
The gap between 4, 5, and 6, not even a gap.
4 and 5, that's less debatable than 1, 2, 3. I think 4 and 5 because that's just kind of they're really, really close.
And I know going back to Clemson, me putting them at 3, I know that everybody's going to say, oh, why? But I just feel
especially as a Clemson fan, wearing a Clemson shirt.
I know, and trust me, when I've looked at the games that have been played this year, Louisville with Florida State and Washington with Stanford, I know we beat them at home. I know we beat Louisville at home, but
so you have Alabama.
We just haven't played our best football. Yep. When we start playing our best football week in and week out, and maybe Washington will drop off. You never know. But if we play like Washington, then we're one of the best teams in the country. We're still 3.
Yeah.
I mean,
to me, I'm a little skeptical sometimes when teams like Washington and will come out of nowhere and just surprise people. I'm a little reluctant to put them that high yet.
Okay.
Especially with Michigan, because they came out, they really had a rough stretch, and then they started to creep their way up, and people were way
I
overhyped.
understand that, but I also think that Washington realizes the gravity of their situation. They're basically in control of the Pac-12.
If they win the Pac-12 with 0-1 losses, they're in.
Right, so they know what's at stake. So they're going to be. I mean, I find it hard to believe.
I'm just looking at teams here. I'm not looking at
I understand, but I find it hard to believe that Washington's not going to show up to play every week. And if they show up to play every week like they played against Stanford, Louisville's the only team that I could
definitely trip up though. They have Cal, they have Utah.
But I think Washington, they realize what type of situation they're in. They realize that if they went out, they were in the playoff.
Yep.
Hands down in the playoff.
So do a lot of teams.
So, that's my top 4.
So I had a little bit different. I was high on Louisville too, but I had Clemson 1. I just think they have the best win in the country. And
so you think they are the best team? I don't care about wins because that was a week ago.
They beat the best team. I think
Okay.
Louisville was the best team coming into this, and they beat Louisville.
Okay.
So the fact that they won, I think you have to respect that, and you have to put them number 1 overall. And I think they're the best team. I said they coming into the year. I think they're the most complete team, and I would take them over Bama, all the other teams that were
So
supposed to
do you
be
have
better.
Bama at 2 or?
I have Louisville 2. I
Okay.
think that based on that game, we saw the top 2 teams in the country dueling it out.
Yeah,
And it said a
arguably.
lot about Louisville, the fact that they
Arguably.
were almost able to win that.
Agreed.
Third, I got Ohio State. I just think with their high-powered offense, their defense is surprisingly actually not bad. I think they're better than Michigan. I would take them right now over Bama just because of what I've seen. I think they have a higher.
They're so young.
I know they're young. They had a third-string freshman quarterback win the championship for them. It's possible to win with a young team.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
They're talented. They're very talented. They have Urban Meyer, and they've proven themselves to be good over the years.
Yeah, but Urban Meyer's not throwing balls and catching them on the field.
But you said that coaching matters a lot.
It does, but that doesn't. I mean, just because they have Urban Meyer, and I know I'm high on
Just
Jim
because
Harbaugh.
they said they had Jim Harbaugh.
I just don't. They're too young. They're the youngest team in the country.
They went into one of the most experienced teams in the country in Oklahoma on the road and manhandled them.
Oklahoma hasn't been that great
Ohio
this
State's
year.
a good team, man.
Oklahoma?
Ohio State is
Oh
a good
no,
team.
I'm not doubting they're good.
Yes.
Again, they're easily in the top 10. 5, 6, 4, wherever you want to put them. 3. But I just don't. They're young. They always don't have the experience.
They're young, but they're talented, and that when you're a talented team, that can get you pretty far.
So what are you pulling, like Fab Five? Is that what this is going to be? Where they're all freshmen and they.
Well, they made the championship that year, so
Yeah. Now,
if
did
that's
they,
your argument,
Did they
then-
win?
Well, I'm not saying Ohio State's the best team in the country, though.
Oh, okay.
And they
All
have
right.
and they have JT Barrett.
All right, wrap it up.
A
Wrap
good
it up.
quarterback
Wrap
goes
it
a
up.
long way.
Fourth team.
Fourth team, I got to go with Washington, just because of what they've done so far. I think they're a good team. To me, like you said, 4, 5, and 6 are really, really close.
Yeah.
Washington, Alabama, I guess Michigan, Houston. Even Houston's in there.
Really? So you think Houston could compete with
yeah.
Alabama?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
I think Houston's dude. Greg Ward can flat out play. Alabama would struggle to contain Greg Ward.
But they haven't
And
played the types of teams
They
that
beat Oklahoma handily.
Oklahoma really isn't that good this year, though.
They-
It's just that's
the way
just
that I
saying,
saw them play-
But that's basically just saying, oh, they beat Oklahoma. Well, is that a big win? Well, it's Oklahoma. That's just the name. That's not.
Well, Washington beat Stanford. And Stanford's obviously not that good this year.
Well, I wouldn't say that. They only have one loss.
They got destroyed.
They did. They did not show
And
up to
Oklahoma's
play.
not that bad either.
I think
They blew out TCU and they're working their way back in. Think about it. Their 2 losses were to Houston and Ohio State.
right.
Those are 2 pretty darn good losses. So if you put them below
They
those
just
guys,
look very flat.
they have like
Stanford hasn't looked as flat as they have.
I don't
Honestly,
think they were that flat. They almost
were
lost
against
all of their
Washington.
games.
not all.
They struggled against Kansas State. They struggled against UCLA. They did pretty well against USC, but they should.
Right.
They got blown out against Washington. I think Houston, after last year, they beat Florida State in their bowl game. They bring back Greg Ward, who's in my mind, one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country. Mm-hmm. And they really surprised me. Their roster, top to bottom, is pretty strong. Okay. And I think they could run with Alabama. They might not beat them, but they could run with them.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
well, fair enough.
So that's my top 4.
So those are our playoff teams, and now we are going to pull up because we did a poll or whatever before the show on Twitter, asking fans to tweet out questions to us, and I want to say the first one that we have.
We had the Washington one.
Yes. So
This
what
was
do you
from my
think?
dad.
Yeah. What do you
Yep.
think will happen first? Another Louisville loss or Washington's first loss?
Oh, I think Washington lost. Absolutely.
Yeah. I
Louisville
agree.
proved to me I would take Lamar Jackson any night. There's no team that's going to stop him in the ACC outside of Clemson.
I want to pull up real quick Washington's schedule because I know that Louisville basically.
It's interesting. Washington's schedule.
Right, but I'm saying Louisville doesn't play anybody until Houston.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
I want
Yeah.
if I can find Washington's schedule.
I got it right here.
I'll
They
pull
got
that up.
at Oregon. Never easy.
Yeah.
It's on the road.
It is at night.
They
7:30.
Oregon State they should win at Utah.
Well, now after Utah's loss to.
They barely lost to Cal. Cal's a solid team. Cal
They
could beat
did.
Washington.
They're mediocre.
Okay.
They're not
Their
solid.
offense is good though, and Utah should have
So
won.
at Utah, at Cal could be tricky. Then versus USC, who knows if USC is going to be? You never know. It's
USC
week
could
to week.
USC could ruin another
It's
season like
week
they
to
did
week
with
for them.
Stanford.
Then they have ASU, which they were undefeated at the time.
At
So
Washington State.
So yeah, I agree. I think that Washington, hands down, has a better chance of losing than Louisville. Barring a crazy upset or something. The next question that we had was about USC and how they always have a successful recruiting class, but awful luck on like converting.
Shout out to Garrett Melton. Appreciate the question.
Yeah, and so how many years do you give them before they're back? Like, do you think? I mean, is it going to take a? In my opinion, it's going to take a totally new coach. I think Ed Orgeron, man.
It's hard to project year-wise because you don't know what's going to happen in the next few years. I would give them at least 5 for them to really for them to come back to where they were before. It's going to take more than 1 or 2 because they're going to have to get a new coach. They're going to have to develop, get good recruiting.
Who do you see going there? It's not going to be Orgeron, probably.
It's not going to be Orgeron.
So who do you see going there?
I mean, maybe
big name. Got to be big names. USC.
Well, Jimbo Fisher's been getting tossed around. I wouldn't see him leaving Florida State.
I don't know.
Tom Herman maybe, but he loves Houston.
Well, again, we talked about the fact that Tom Herman probably wants to accomplish something before.
I'm trying to think of other big name coaches that would be on the hot seat. Brian Kelly, maybe, if he leaves Notre Dame, that's a possibility.
That would be interesting because of the rivalry there.
He would be. He would love to get back in Notre Dame.
That would be really interesting because they always play each other at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I just think because he's been in a big time program and he's proven that he can succeed.
Yeah.
So they might
got him
be
to a
interested.
Championship, right?
Brought him to the championship. Well, they got blown out, but they brought him to the championship.
Yes. But they went undefeated that year, 12-0.
But once you get that guy, you still have to develop.
Yeah.
You still have to work. So I think at least 5 years to me.
Okay, that's fair then. And now we're going to do an upcoming week preview where we're going to look at all the top 25 team games for this upcoming week and give our picks. So let's see.
We had 2 questions real quick if you want to take care of that real quick on Twitter.
Okay.
2 more questions.
2 more questions?
I'll ask you them. Jake Wassler tweeted this out. Most overrated team in the AP top 10 this week. I'm saying Miami. I think there's no question about it.
Most overrated team. Let me look at the top 10.
Miami does not deserve to be a top 10 team. We said that in the beginning of the show.
Miami's.
Next question.
Yeah. I can agree. I'm torn between Miami and Houston because.
Oh, come on.
They're just.
You still hate Houston.
I don't hate them by any stretch of the imagination. It's just. It's like Miami. They really. I mean,
They
yeah,
beat
they're
Oklahoma. That's a good win.
They've played Oklahoma. I'll give them that. Lamar, I think that is Lamar.
But look at their team.
Hold on. Let me finish. Lamar, Cincinnati, Texas State, and UConn.
Their schedule's not going to help them out.
They have only played one team. It was at home. I know they beat them by 10 points. It was an impressive win at the time.
Okay.
You could say Oklahoma was preseason form, whatever. They haven't beat anybody. They beat Lamar 42-0. They beat Cincinnati 40-16. They beat Texas State 64-3 and UConn 42-14.
You could say the same about Ohio State. They beat Oklahoma, and they haven't beat anybody else, and they're already up there.
It's not that I hate Houston because I think that with Greg Ward, I think that they're a good football team. I think they're top 15. I don't think they're top 10. They're not
credit, man.
6th in the country.
They could be. Who's better than them? Who's below them?
Who have they played?
Who has the other teams played? That's the thing. You got to look at the other teams that are below them. You can't just slide them down because you don't think they're that good.
They're just in tougher conferences. They're week to week. Think about Washington.
I know.
We just looked at Washington's schedule.
Yep.
Their week to week schedule is brutal.
It's tough.
Compared to Houston. And Houston's what? 1 spot behind them? Are you kidding me? There is no way.
But just because you play tougher teams doesn't mean you're a better team. It's tough for Houston because remember Boise.
More resiliency.
Remember Boise State a few years ago?
You're telling me that Louisville is not as good as Houston?
Okay, that's a slap in the face. Louisville is better than Houston. The AP poll.
Louisville, Texas A&M, Tennessee.
Oh, I think Houston could contend with A&M and Tennessee.
Wisconsin are all better than Houston.
No, they're not, man. Oh, Houston would hang with all.
I'm going to have to wait until the end of the year when Houston plays Louisville to actually get a gauge on who's the best team because.
Do you think Houston over Miami?
I just think Houston. They don't need to be top.
Next question, also from my brother. Do you think a big-time program will try to hire away Venables for a head coaching position? That's a good question.
That is, I think because Chad Morris left a couple years ago.
SMU.
That's not really a big name program, and he hasn't really been able to.
How about this? How about
too
just
much.
leave? Period.
Well, I guess it depends on your what your opinion is of a big name program.
Yeah.
Like what that Power
Let's just say
Five,
Power 5.
obviously.
Go
yeah.
Power 5. Yeah.
There is a reason that we compensate him so well. Obviously, we want him to stay. I don't know. I don't.
I think he stays. I think Dabo sticks with him and he keeps him there.
Yeah, but there could always be an offer that opens up.
But so far, I think he's committed because he signed that big deal with them to stay here.
Yeah,
I think he's.
I think
committed.
as long as we compensate him like we have been, and everything stays.
He's got a lot going for him here.
Yes. Well, so did Chad Morris, but Chad Morris felt like he
So
wanted
did Kirby Smart
to take over with
Okay.
SMU. And it's been interesting with the co-offensive coordinators having Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott.
I just don't see that Brent Venables as a head coach. Just if you.
The thing is, though, is it hurts Clemson more than it'll hurt Venables. Because really, in my opinion, it's always been, yes, Dabo is a coach, but he's really a motivator.
He's a
he
motivator. He's a good
motivates the
speaker.
guys
Yeah.
to get ready. And Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott, I'm sure, do a great job on offense. But it's kind of, I don't want to say Sweeney controls them, but it's not like.
Venables gets them fired up.
What I'm saying is this: Venables has more control over the defense than Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott have over the offense.
It's
a
easy to
It's
say.
a collaboration
Yeah.
between those two and Dabo on the offense.
They pay attention more to Venables.
Honestly, and I may be wrong, but I feel like Dabo kind of looks at Venables and says, "Okay, you know what you're doing on defense. Do your thing," and he'll sit down with the offensive guys and work out something. Maybe we'll pick Tony Elliott or Jeff Scott at the end of the year and have only one. Who knows? But I think that it could really hurt Clemson.
Oh yeah.
If we lose Venables, which I think is again why we're paying him so much money.
You're not always going to have a Deshaun Watson to pick up the slack on offense.
Yeah. So
Good questions,
that's it on the Twitter questions.
That's the questions. Yep.
All right. So now we're going to go ahead and look at the schedule for this upcoming week for the top 25, and
Virginia Tech, Carolina. We kind of already talked about that.
Yep. I'm trying to pull up the schedule real.
Go on the rankings.
Quick.
Should be up there. Yep. I'll just go to the next one. Utah, Arizona. Arizona hung around with Washington. Utah coming off a loss. This is a game that Utah has to win if they have any chance to compete for the playoff.
Yeah, and Arizona gave. Who did they give trouble to? No,
It was Washington.
It was Washington.
It was Washington.
Okay.
Yep. Florida State, Miami. We already kind of touched on. West Virginia's on a bye.
Yep.
Colorado, US.
There's a lot of teams on a bye. I'm
6
counting
of the top 25.
Yeah, there's a
bye.
lot of teams on bye weeks this week, so kind of a slower week.
Which is a week for us to just catch our breath after the excitement we've had.
Yeah, for sure. And get our voices back.
Yeah. Colorado, USC. Colorado in the top 25. First appearance in a while for the Buffaloes.
4-1.
They're 4-1.
4-1.
They hung around with Michigan in the first half. They were competing with them.
They did.
So they're a solid team.
They did. Yeah.
Just goes to show again what the Pac-12 is. Oklahoma, Texas. Always a showdown in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah. This is Red River rivalry. Is this also the Cotton Bowl? They always play the Cotton Bowl. I think that this really is a must-win for Charlie Strong, especially after he
might be most win for both.
Well, he demoted his defensive coordinator. Did you see that? Charlie Strong demoted his defensive coordinator.
Defensive calls now.
And so, I think Texas, there's a bit of rumbling going on right now. So, yes, it's probably a big win. Because if you're Oklahoma and all of a sudden you're 2-3, you're kind of sitting there going, what happened?
And it's never good, because I know I saw something earlier today where they were asking guys on Texas what they thought of Charlie Strong. It's never good when you have people asking about their head coach, because that means he might be out the door.
Yeah, but I feel like Texas needs that win more than Oklahoma does. Boise State at 19.
Boise State's really the only non-Power 5 team that really has a chance outside of Houston at this point.
Yeah, well, even then, They're playing at New Mexico this week. Their schedule is so weak.
Yeah,
they're not gonna make the top 4. They can go 12-0. They're not gonna make the top 4.
Now, Florida LSU. This is huge for Orgeron. This is his first real test.
It is. Do you think they can?
I think they could.
It's at Florida.
I'm gonna
in
go
the swamp.
upset.
Okay.
Never been a Florida fan.
Yeah. No,
and then you get Luke Del Rio back, but
I have faith in the Tigers. I feel like they can turn it around. I think Orgeron's a good coach.
He's going to rely on Fournette, and Fournette's going to do it for him.
North Carolina at 17. They're playing the hosting number 25 Virginia Tech. I think UNC takes care of business. I know we talked about that pretty extensively.
I want Virginia Tech to win, but I will go with UNC.
Right.
Yep.
And then Arkansas at 16, hosting Alabama.
I think Bama's going to take care of it. I want to say Arkansas has a chance because they almost beat TCU, or they did.
Well, they have a chance, but I just think that by come mid-third quarter, Bama's going to start.
There's no way they're going to keep up with Bama for 4 quarters.
No. Stanford at 15 against Washington State.
Washington State's a solid team.
Yeah.
The quarterback is good.
I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell if Stanford will show up after will they go into this week saying, okay, guys, we got to buckle down and we got to get back to where we were, or are they just going to be flat the rest of the year.
You know McCaffrey's going to be motivated.
Yeah,
That's for
so
sure.
I don't know. I feel like Stanford wins, but maybe Stanford still has a hangover.
Stanford wins?
I do. I
think
mean, against Washington State.
I think it'll be really close, though. We'll watch out for a last-minute touchdown.
We're going to skip Ole Miss, Baylor, Nebraska, and Wisconsin because they all have bye weeks, so that puts us back up in the top 10. We have Miami hosting number 23 Florida State, a rivalry game. I know we've talked about this a good bit. I think Florida State is kind of just running in quicksand right now. I think Miami goes to 5-0.
I think Florida State wins.
Really?
Florida State, dude. Miami has not proven anything yet. You
so
can't say that.
So you think this is what turns Florida State's season around?
I really think so. They need
you have no
something.
faith in Miami?
No, I think Miami's got a chance, but
I mean, this game is at Miami.
yeah, but come on. I mean, Florida State, their roster, they have talent. Now, I know they haven't proven anything yet. They haven't lived up to what they were supposed to be, but they still are Florida State, and they still have a good roster. And Brad Kaya is only one guy for Miami, and they haven't proven they can beat Florida State in six tries.
I still think Miami gets it done, but
that's my upset pick of the week.
Yeah, it should be a good game to watch.
Yep.
Then we have number 9 Tennessee at A&M.
Who you picking? I'm going Tennessee. I take Dobbs overnight.
It's at A&M, but the way, again, Tennessee, like Clemson, we haven't seen their best football.
Yep.
So I'm going to give Tennessee. I feel like Tennessee. If Tennessee wins this game convincingly, then I'll be like.
They probably won't because they haven't beat anybody convincingly.
Well, you never know, but I think that Tennessee can get this one done on the road, and they'll get the win there. And obviously, we just talked about A&M. Louisville's on a bye.
They need it.
Yeah, they. That's a tough loss. It really was.
Yeah.
It was a great game.
And your darlings, Houston. Sarcastic, by the way.
At Navy. You think the midshipmen give them any trouble?
Navy just got blown out by Air Force last week, and it is Navy. It's different. It's on the road. They do play
triple option, isn't it? Yeah.
And Navy's always been a decent program, but they don't have Keenan Reynolds.
I mean, you could arguably say this is their second hardest game of the year besides Oklahoma.
Except Louisville.
Well, that's coming up.
Yeah.
But I think Houston wins. I think Houston wins. But
Greg Ward's too much.
This proves my point.
Yep.
This proves my point.
Okay.
Top 5. Washington at Oregon.
Watch out, man.
Oh, so
it's at Oregon. No, I'm not saying Washington's going to win, but it's a trap game.
Okay.
A little hangover after the Stanford game. Maybe they're too confident going into it.
Hangover. They beat them 44-6.
Well,
you think they're just getting complacent?
Yeah, exactly.
Complacent.
I could say that. Yeah.
Michigan at number 4. They travel to Rutgers.
That's not even a game.
They're going to win. And then Clemson, obviously, we'll talk about at Boston College here in a little bit. That's a Friday night game. Ohio State at 2. They host Indiana.
Indiana beat Michigan State last week.
They did. But it's Ohio State.
And I'm high on Ohio State. I think they'll have no problem.
They're going to win the horseshoe. And then Alabama, number 1, traveling to Arkansas. We've talked about this. We're picking Bama.
We'll see.
But it could figure to be a good game. So that is our preview of the upcoming top 25 team games for this week. And now we're going to look at Clemson's road game to BC this Friday night. We lead the series all time 14-9-2. It's closer than I thought.
Yeah.
We actually have a 5-game win streak dating back to 2011. And these two teams did not play. They only played one time between 1960 and 2005.
I think as BC was out of the conference, they weren't in the ACC.
I think that's what it was. So a huge gap in that one time that they did play. It was up in Chestnut Hill at Boston College, and they ended up winning 31-16. So recently, though, in Dabo Swinney era, it's been all Clemson.
They won the last 5, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of made fun of BC as being a bottom feeder ACC school.
Because you remember last year when they had that, what was your best part about playing at BC? And it wasn't the football.
Right. So I feel like, I don't expect this game to be close.
I could see a Georgia Tech kind of score.
Okay, so you think they really shut them down?
Oh, yeah. No, Boston, last year, their quarterback went 7 for 22, had 87 yards.
Yeah.
They just don't have the offense to keep up with them. And they got shut out against Virginia Tech. I think it was like 49-10.
Yeah.
They don't have the offense. They're actually still rated the number 1 defensive team in the country.
Oh, really?
Yards per game averaged, their total defense is still number 1.
Wow.
Now, they haven't played anybody, so that obviously impacts, that.
Yeah, I think Deshaun.
Misleads it.
I think Deshaun will change that stat real quick.
Dabo's not going to let them lose this game after what they just did to Louisville.
No, I think that this will be, taking Deshaun out after the end of the third quarter or something, and it'll be second string.
It's on the road.
It is.
It's a Friday night, so you never know.
True, and if I remember correctly, we don't have a very good record in Friday night games. I don't know off the top of my head what it
Haven't
is.
played that many.
No, we haven't, obviously, but that's like we talked about a couple weeks ago with Georgia Tech. We're like, Thursday night games are never an assured thing.
I want to see our offense really start to click and put 4 quarters together.
I want this game to be what Miami was last year.
Oh yeah.
Just in all facets of the game,
over.
like what Washington did to Stanford. Just take it to them for 4 quarters. I'm not saying don't let up. I'm just saying
we need to see that from Clemson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if I start seeing that type of performance week in, week out, then Clemson gets bumped up a little bit in my top 4.
They deserve their 3rd ranking.
Right, but I think this is the game where Clemson can really come out and just, like I said, they'll be putting in the second string after halftime.
What I hate about these games though is when you play a lower team, you have to beat them badly. You can't you can't pull a Troy.
Or it's going to raise eyebrows.
It's tough, but it is nice. Good, it's a team you can really work on.
I don't see how having a hangover. Short week.
I mean,
like I said, I was there for the pressers yesterday, and Gallman, Deshaun, they were all there, focused.
Oh, they're zoned in.
On what they need to do now because they realize they control the ACC destiny, similar to how Washington controls their destiny. I really think Washington and Clemson are very similar in certain ways.
I think Clemson's still better, but I can see where you're saying that.
I think that they're better. I just think when you look at what they did to Stanford versus now, you could argue that Louisville's better than Stanford. I totally agree with that argument.
Or Washington, you mean?
Oh,
you mean
no? I mean Stanford.
Who they played.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
who they played. Because Washington's game was at home. Clemson's game was at home.
But they didn't face Lamar Jackson.
Right. So I understand that argument. But I still would give the notch slightly to Washington. But again, if Clemson comes out and destroys BC, which I think they will,
I want to see Washington really start to play well against the other Pac-12 teams because I know they beat Stanford, but they struggled against Arizona. They've got teams like Cal and Utah that can give them trouble. If they start really proving themselves and beating those teams well, then I'll really start to solidify them in the top 4.
Yeah, but again, end of the day, I'm picking Clemson.
I'm going to go Clemson too. We're favored by, I think, 16.5. I would take the over there. I think we definitely score a lot more points than we score enough points that we need to destroy them and beat them badly. Yeah.
Well, that's going to pretty much wrap it up for us. For Bradley Kendall, I'm Jay Smith, and this has been After Further Review. I wonder if they know that we're off.
I don't think they do. If we're still on.
I think we are still on.
Yeah, it was a good weekend this week in college football.
It really was.
I
mean, again, I know going back to the top 4 because a lot of people are gonna, complain that I have Clemson at 3. I just think that with the way Washington played, until I see that from Clemson.
I respect your top 4 though, because a lot of people can say it's just the AP poll, but when you really look at who's the best team, in my eyes, the eye test is really how you determine that.
There's
you
just
have
no
to
way
watch
you
the
put
games.
Louisville at 7. That just isn't.
That's how the polls work.
Yeah, that's just they lost. I know that you have to, but I don't agree with it at all.
I don't either. Yep.
But we're still on there, I think.
We're still on. Let's just hopefully they notice that's something they're bad. They're having a meeting. Yep, I kind of want to signal them.
I'll.
I wonder what time the games are this weekend. I didn't even look at that yet.
Oh no, I'll have to look at. Oh, there's a game on Wednesday.
Is there really?
Yeah, Georgia Southern at Arkansas State.
Oh, wow.
Wow, we got football
Be
tomorrow.
the only reason I turn into that is because it's the only game on.
2 games Thursday, then us Friday.
How do you want to let them know that we're...
I don't know.
Thanks for watching, guys.